These guys may unfortunately end up in the compost. Don't tell anyone. G'day you mob, how's it going? Welcome to this episode of Pete vs Plants. I am Pete and the plants are all around me. So I thought today we could check on some propagations. I have a whole bunch of pink princess that barely have any pink propagations. So this was one of the first pink princess, or the first pink princess that I ever bought. And it just, didn't have great variegation, which is why I got it so cheap. So I thought I would chop it up and see how it goes. So I've used a little Ziploc bag method here with damp moss in there, and you can see that it is starting to shoot out some sprouts here from some of the cuttings. So I thought, better get these guys out or they're gonna get deformed. And then we have a whole bunch of things in here, including Thai Constellation cuttings. I've got a Brazil form Monstera deliciosa. I think it would be just the sort of small form, I'm not sure. And then I had a few of these reverted Monstera Albos, the small form as well, and I chucked them in here. And you can see the roots have been going crazy. I don't know which cuttings. I think it's going to be the Thai Constellations that have gone this bonkers. I don't think everything will have rooted really, really well, but we'll pull it out and have a look. But I've been using a bubbler, and you'll notice that there's barely any algae in here. There's a little bit, but it's actually pretty good at keeping the algae under control when you have a bubbler in there, and I just keep topping it up. And I've been using some of my nutrient solution recently too, because of these roots, to try and feed some of the plants in here. So I guess we will start with the pink princesses. And these guys randomly got attacked by spider mites halfway through. And I'll tell you what, if you want to look at an ugly plant after spider mite damage, anything with really dark leaves like this just gets manky as and just looks awful. I mean, all things pretty much look awful once they've been attacked by spider mites, but pink princesses definitely don't look good. I've had a few that have been attacked and are looking a little worse for wear. Anyway, so this looks like it's worked pretty well. We've got some nice roots in here. I don't know if it's every single cutting, but there you go. Seems to have done the trick, though it's been a little slow. I'm not sure if that's just pink princess in general with propagations or what, but yeah, this one seems to have effectively no variegation on the leaf that it is pushing out. We'll just go one by one, I guess. Oof. This one looks a little more promising, but not sure. I guess we'll see what happens when that comes out. I'm not sure whether or not I should just pot these guys up. I might just pot them up all together and then use it to take cuttings from it if it actually ends up giving me some good variegation. Same thing here. So nice roots, but this leaf looks like it's going to have zero variegation on it. It's going to be similar to this one. I think it's going to be a similar story with all these guys. And the ironic thing is the base of the plant was where the variegation was. So I think it was like one of these situations where whether or not it actually reverted, at least genetically, the rest of the plant, the newer growth on the plant, had all really, really dark leaves like this. Whereas the base, there were these little leaves where it had obviously been grown out of tissue culture, and the plant had a lot of variegation. And when I cut it back to the base, so the base is still growing in my plant room, should have shown you, it started pushing out half moons and full pink leaves and everything. Looked absolutely stunning. So yeah, interesting that you can cut it back and potentially save it. I'm not sure what's going on here variegation wise, but it's pushed out a shoot and it has a good root system as well, a little long root. I think it's a similar story here. These leaves that have this kind of green tinge to them all throughout the leaf. There doesn't seem to be any. Oh, there's a little bit of pink. I'm not sure if you can see. There's a tiny, tiny fleck of pink on this one. There's a whole bunch here. Far out, we did pretty well. And I wonder, with something like, it's really hard to tell on some of these guys, because I'm not sure too if it's just a lack of light. If these guys are being kept in the moss and they haven't gotten enough light, maybe that's why they don't have enough chlorophyll and they're appearing pink like this. But perhaps the chlorophyll will grow and they will end up with leaves that look a little more like this. Anyway, so yeah, this method's obviously worked pretty well. It's a little slower than some of the other methods that I've used. The fastest one that I found, as I always mention with you guys, is using the aeroponic system. That thing just turns things up to another level. And you would have roots like the stuff that you see here on these plants would probably appear in less than a month when you're using aeroponics. So anyway, that's what we have with these pink princesses. I think I'm just going to pot these guys all up together. I'm not really sure. They're probably not even ready to be potted up, to be honest, yet. Some of these don't have huge root systems. And I'm even sort of leaning towards just throwing them away, to be honest, because you can barely even give pink princesses away today. They're you know, so cheap and affordable that, yeah, and I've got a beautiful one, so I don't really need all of these low variegation ones. I was kind of just wanting to propagate them to see if any of them would kind of just be shaken out of their reverted state and shoot out some beautiful variegation, but it seems like that is not the case. So these guys may unfortunately end up in the compost. Don't tell anyone. I don't know, a whole bunch of you guys are going to be like, please, send me one. And I'm like, you know, if you were next door, you could just come over and snag one, but you can, trust me, you'll be able to find a better deal online. They're getting so cheap and affordable, especially in Australia here, that, yeah, you'll find something much better than the ones that I just showed you, trust me. Okay, so I'm just going to save the moss. I've removed all the rotting material, save the moss there. All right. Now, what is the easiest way that we can do these plants that are propagating here? I guess we'll start with the smallest ones, if that's possible. What do we got here? Okay. So the story was that I chopped up one of my reverting Monstera Albos, and I wanted to see if it would actually end up shooting out any growth that was variegated. And I'm just checking this one for pests. It looks like it has a tiny bit of scale there. Scale is so annoying. It seems to be one of those things though that just does barely any damage, knock on wood, but it just pops up all the time. And you know, you'll just have one or two of them. Anyway, so this is the first one. It doesn't look like it's doing very much. It's been in there for a month or two, and so I don't have high hopes for this guy. Let's just keep going. Oh man, do we just take out the whole bunch? Yeah, we're going to end up making a bit of a mess. Hopefully, I don't break any of these roots because they have kind of all grown together. So we're going to make a little bit of a mess, but I'm hoping we can separate these guys out. Look at that. They've sort of taken the form of the bottom of the pot or the vase. All right. Oof. Okay. So one of these has actually gone off. It's gone off like a frog in a sock, guys. Really good root system there. I can see on that Albo cutting. So it's really interesting when you have one Albo cutting that has gone bananas from the same, like it was cut from the same plant, and yet the others haven't. You're sort of like, why would you decide for one of you guys to be, you know, going bananas and the other ones not to? Now, there we go. Oof. Okay, so here is a Thai Constellation cutting. That's looking really good. I could probably pot this one up, to be honest. Those secondary roots, though you probably wouldn't lose anything by just leaving it in there. The annoying thing is, I think the leaf here at the top has rotted off because it was submerged in the water. So that may be something to watch out for, but the growth point here looks nice and strong. So I guess we will just keep an eye on that, and it should just keep growing. But that one is looking good. So I might keep that one to the side. That's another one that sort of sucks at the moment. Thai Constellations have taken a massive dive in price. So it is a bad thing for people who, like myself, try to invest in buying a whole bunch of them. But it is an incredibly good thing for those out there who want to get themselves a beautiful Thai Constellation for a very affordable price now, because they're cheap as chips, guys. You can pick them up for sometimes under $100. So yeah, they have come a long way. Oof, okay, this one's looking good as well. Another Thai Con cutting. So I've got a whole bunch of these in here. And then I think we have 2 cuttings left. Oh man, look at that, okay. Please I hope it's the Brazil that has the majority of these roots, because I would love to pot that one up already. And oh my God, yes! Look at that! All right, so the interesting thing is this is the tip cutting from the Monstera Albo that reverted, and the annoying thing is this is the one that has like barely any variegation. That's the variegation, and the newest leaf is this, so I think I just have a green Monstera here. I don't think that there is going to be any more coming out, though. Yeah, it looks like if you look up the stem here, there is like no variegation up where the new leaf is coming out, and you can only see a small line on that previous leaf. So if that line was on this one, I would probably have higher hopes, but it's not. So we'll pot it up and see what happens anyway, but I don't have high hopes, and I might end up just planting that one outside to have some Monstera there. I am so chuffed, I'm so pumped that the roots on this one have gone off like a frog in a sock, because this is the Monstera Brazil form. It's probably difficult to tell, but the fenestrations kind of go further into the actual plant, and I'm wondering, am I looking at scale at the moment? Yeah, there's bloody scale all over the shop. No. So that's vermiculite on the top. That's what I thought was scale, but I can actually see a few scale down here. Again, not the biggest problem in the world, but it's just not fun when you find that your plants have pests, right? But yeah, look at that. Looking good like you should. So we got some options. We could chuck it in leca, but I think I'm just going to chuck it in soil, guys. My Monstera seem to do really well in soil. I have rot sometimes, but by and large, the chunky roots can handle a bit of abuse in terms of underwatering or overwatering. They do pretty well. And because these plants size up so quickly, they're not going to be in semi-hydro or passive hydro for very long before you're going to have to pot them up. So I think we'll pot this guy up in soil as well. I might do it with those two Thai cons too. And I just have to think, man, this one's had a really wild story. So what happened with this one? This one had roots grow. This was one of the first cuttings that I took, and it was a tip cutting, and you can see it's seen better days, guys. It was looking amazing initially. I took the cutting, the roots they looked great, and then I think I can't remember what happened, but somehow the roots came off or rotted off or something. They died. So I left it in water again, and it rooted again. And then I put it into, like drainless moss. Like I had leca at the bottom and I had moss on top of that, and the moss got too wet. You know, I don't do that anymore. And the roots rotted off again. And again, it had a beautiful root system. It was huge, really developed, and they rotted off. So I've chucked this one in water in the time being, and you can see this is the third time the poor thing has had to push out roots, and it's still, you know, managed to push them out. I had to cut them all the way back to the base here, but it's managed to push them out there. So I think I'm going to leave this one in and yeah, let it keep growing, because it's not going to do well, I don't think, if I try and plant it up at the moment. The roots aren't developed enough, but they're getting there. So yeah, I guess we'll go get some soil, guys, some chunky mix, and we will start planting things up. Alrighty, who is lucky number one? Still no sign of my mat, guys. I have to really do a search. I don't know where it's ended up. Like, yeah, so embarrassing. Sorry, Susan. She's the one who made the mat for me. And yeah, I've gone and lost it. Anyway, so first one's first. Lucky number one is this Brazilian form Monstera deliciosa. There we go. Boom. Oh man, can't wait for this one to size up. It's going to be great. All right, so I'm just moving things around just to make sure that the soil sort of gets all around those roots, because especially when you have such a sort of large, dense root system, it's very easy for pockets to form in there, and you kind of don't want huge air pockets in your soil. One, because things can dry out. Two, you're not utilizing all of the space to have a substrate that the roots can kind of grow into that will remain moist. So yeah, all right, there is number one. I'll put him, I guess we'll leave him like that. Actually, no, he's in the way, isn't he? Put him over here. Out of the way, mate. All right, the Thai Constellation. So I have to decide size pot do I put you in? And I probably need to remove some of the rotting material at the base here. So you can see all that dark stuff. That will just slide off when you use a paper towel like this. And you might as well just remove it because it is rotting vegetation that you probably don't want around your roots or the base of your plant. The other cool thing is I can see a new leaf emerging here, which is phenom. This one's a bit deformed, but yeah, this one can probably go in a small, it probably could go in a really small pot, but I think I'm gonna have to pot it up so quickly if I do that I'm just gonna chuck it in a 14 centimeter pot anyway. And the roots, Thai Constellation, any of the Monsteras really, their roots just take off. They fill up so fast, I've found, and especially those roots that come off, the aerial roots that come off the different nodes as they grow and they shoot into the pots that you've got, I find that they almost always go straight down and then find their way out of a hole. They circle looking for a hole and then just penetrate the crap out of it, and you've got yourself a real headache and you need to up pot it. But, you know, it's also a good story, you know, when you get the awesome root growth like that. Another one. I'm gonna have to sell these guys. I need to get rid of them. Unfortunately, they're not the prettiest cuttings, but I just took way too many cuttings from my Thai Constellation plants when I first started investing in plants, and I have way too many. I think at one point I had like 20 of them. So if you guys are interested in a deal for some Thai Constellations, just shoot me a message. Go to my eBay store. I may not have them up on there, but they're available. So if you want one, I can hook you up. Just send me a message. At least I can hook you up until they're all gone. But I'm not sure how many people really want them anymore. They're just everywhere. They've totally saturated the market, guys. So if you haven't got one, you definitely don't need to look very far and you will find one for a deal. So yeah, and I would recommend trying to find one on eBay or in a Facebook group, or even getting yourself a cutting like this. They're not the prettiest thing in the world, to be honest, to start with. You will find prettier, but they will be a pretty penny compared to these. So if you go into a nursery, you'll still see them trying to be sold for like $400. Whereas something like this, I would be more than happy parting with for $100. And it's going to size up quickly too, because the leaves are so big. They're going to get really big, really quick. And you know, within 6 months, this will be unrecognizable. You won't even probably have these leaves anymore, and they'll be like this big. So yeah, anyway, spiel aside, if you want one of these guys, send me a message and I will hook you up, because I am running out of space. I'm running out of space. Where am I going to put these? I mean that right now, and also where am I going to put them in the house? All right. And lastly, the tip cutting of this reverted Albo. Chuck that in here as well. And fingers crossed this one does really well too. Even if it just stays green, there's nothing wrong with that. I have a few green ones around the house. They are hidden away in places like my bathroom. But yeah, nothing like a good, beautiful green Monstera. They're just timeless, right? Timeless. So yeah, and I really have to work out what the hell I'm gonna do with these guys. Maybe I just chuck them all, guys, into a pot and we just see what happens. I see if I can position these dudes. And I'll tell you what, if you guys live locally, I'm in Geelong, and you want these pink princesses, just shoot me a message and they're yours. You can have them for free. You come pick them up and you can have them for free. Because yeah, I am semi-interested in what's going to happen with these guys, but I don't have high hopes. I'm even sort of keen to just leave the moss on here, because yeah, I'm not too phased. But yeah, if you are dying for, I don't know, 6, 7 cuttings of Pink Princess, then shoot me a message and you can come and grab them and take them off my hands for free. Cool. What I did do with this is I kind of sort of searched around for some of the smaller grain size stuff in the soil bucket here that I've got my chunky mix in, more of the soil mix really, and put that on the top. And I do that because these are cuttings, the roots are going to dry out faster. They're obviously not as developed too, so I want the moisture to kind of sit in there for as long as possible. Otherwise they're going to dry out and die. So that is my sort of rationale. Quite often I won't just put cuttings like this straight into really chunky soil mix. I'll be using a finer mix, and I left it in the garage, so I just started to get a few handfuls of the soil mix at the bottom of the pot here. Anyway, I'm going to try and bury this last cutting in here too. Make sure that he has a nice amount of soil around him as well to stay moist and hopefully get that root system to develop. But I really don't know what's going to happen with these guys, to be honest. I think some of them will survive, some of them will die, and they're probably all going to be like this. Anyway, that's been long enough, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this episode and hanging out with me. Go check out this video next, and I'll see you next time.